What's all this division for? It's modern segregation. This is setting up a civil war. Burn the circus down, cause the world is full of clowns. They're all stupid and they're proud, painted smiles on their mouths.
Hello everybody, Jason here, back with another video. So it seems pretty obvious at this point that this country is really very quickly driving towards a cliff. It's about to drive off in the somewhat near future, all of us together being driven off as we fight with bitter hatred, fight each other. Left versus right, black versus white, Trumpists versus anti-Trumpists, I guess you could say, because no one really likes Biden because he's a pathetic political candidate. Anyway, Great Divide, Great American Divide. It's the most divided I think we've ever been in this country. I think pretty much safe to say everyone can see that. Kind of made that pretty clear in the 2020's election. So, election, whatever it was, whatever you think it was, really doesn't matter because it got us back to right where we're at, right where we're always at. It's just the worst it's ever been. Cycle of division and fear. You know, we got an epidemic of fear is what we really have going on here. We have a crazy epidemic of fear and a virus of victimization. It's totally sweeping the nation. Pretty bad. So you got the people at the top, let's call them the sorcerers. They've cast a spell of fear across the face of the whole earth, and pretty much everyone's been swept away by this spell of fear. You can see it everywhere you go. Like, go to the grocery store, people in masks, terrified of a virus that has, I don't know, 99.9% survival rate. That's what the CDC says anyway. So the same people that say you need to be terrified of this deadly virus admit it's really not that deadly. And people are terrified of the not so deadly virus. And then it gets worse, though, because you got other people who, like, don't buy into this crap. They're like, this is a scam. Or maybe, on the other hand, maybe they're just like, you know what? I don't care anymore. I don't care if this is the deadliest virus. I just want to go back to normal, guys. Anyway, you've got all these people that just, they're sick of the whole narrative. And they're terrified of something arguably way worse. Rising technocracy, global control grid, New World Order, Great Reset. Lots of words that can be used, but it's a real thing. It's an agenda, and it's coming alive before our very eyes. And the whole mask mandates and vaccine passports and all this stuff is just the very beginning, and they're pretty open about it. The plans, you know, they want to control everything, total control, but that's not communism. And they're going to use technology to do it. Immunization passports, digital passports, you know, there's a whole list of ways it's going to happen. Social credit scores, China's the model, and you got these folks that are pushing this agenda, and you got people terrified of this. So now everybody's in fear, and we should know fear's the real killer. Literally kills people. It's fear, anxiety, stress, all these related fear-based emotions are a cause of a great amount of disease, and they also, you know, suppress your immunity, lower your immune system, opening you up to, I don't know, maybe being more susceptible to viruses. So that's just something to think about for the people that somehow think that being scared of a virus for the rest of their life is somehow going to help keep them safe from a virus. Well, it's not. It's going to open up your body to infection from the virus that you're scared of, and so many other things as well. Bacterias, funguses, and anything that can cause disease. So something to think about. But there, so you've got everyone, not everyone, but so many people scared. You got the people that are scared of the virus, and then the people scared of the emerging new world that's rising out of the ashes of the collapsed old normal. So you got these people telling us that, like, I don't know, Klaus Schwab's a good example. He's kind of like the head honcho of the World Economic Forum, which is this meetup for a bunch of the rich billionaires that are making these plans to do this. And these unelected people like Bill Gates and, you know, the Tony Fauci's of the world. Anyway, Klaus Schwab, guy's like never had a smile on his face. I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of him, but he is literally looks like the Grinch on steroids. Looks like he's never smiled. And he was born in Nazi Germany, so probably just the guy we want to be listening to for advice. But he says, if he gets his way anyway, you and me are going to own nothing, and you're going to be happy. And so am I. And he is going to own everything, and he probably still won't be happy. Probably a lot of us won't be happy either, but we're supposed to be happy. That's his plan. That's their plan. And so rightfully, I shouldn't say rightfully, because obviously it's not right to be in fear if you want to be free, but there's a reason that so many people are afraid of this system. And convenient for the people trying to build this system, because they know that fear is ultimate tool of control, and it really doesn't matter too much to them what you're in fear of. As long as you're in a state of fear, you're going to be operating from the most, well, pretty much just the most illogical and just the lowest energy state you possibly could be, because that's what fear is. It's the lowest energy, lowest vibration of energy on the planet. It's literally the worst place you could be stuck. You're way better off if you're angry, and being angry is not a great place to be. So that says a lot about fear, and this is why it's so good. It's a great tool for keeping people under control, because terrified people are, you know, willing to do what you say. Case in point, just look at all the people running around in masks, terrified. Anyway, I could go on and on about masks, but that's not what this video is about, so let's get to the point. We need solutions. We're driving to the cliff. People are terrified. People are scared. People are being told to hate each other, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. This whole left-right, black-white, gay-straight, and on I'm sure the list goes, but those are pretty much black-white and left-right are really the main key components of the current division being fueled by the media. And you know things are insane when there's op-eds being written about the Trumpites next door. LA Times, this literally happened earlier in the month. LA Times columnist wrote about the Trumpites neighbors. I think it was her getaway and big winter storm, and neighbors next door just came over and shoveled her driveway and didn't even ask, for payment. Just a random act of kindness, the kind of thing that in America, Americans used to be known for. Well, now, it's got to be a little distrustful of those neighbors being nice. It's a little weird. It doesn't happen in the city, people just being nice to be nice, and besides, they're Trumpites, so, well, they probably deserve our thanks, but how much thanks? You gotta limit your gratitude now based on political affiliation, so that's one way you can really know how insane things have gotten, where now even being kind is judged based on, what politics you identify with, which is ridiculous. And then you've got, like, people who get offended when you say all lives matter, and they say, you're a racist, don't say that. And you're just, what? How is that racist, saying all lives matter? Well, because the media's got us to a point where people actually think that saying all lives matter means you're a white supremacist, Trump-supporting hater of black people. Because somehow, in this insane way of thinking, all lives does not include black lives. And Black Lives Matter, it's not an exclusive movement of just black people, forgetting Mexicans and everyone else. No, it's just the only way to not be a racist is to be Black Lives Matter only, apparently. Because only blacks were ever enslaved, even though throughout history all of humanity has always generally been enslaved by the people enslaving them. Color of the skin often had nothing to do with it. Really never had anything to do with it. Except in few cases when racism fueled it. But it was never the root of the problem. That's what we're going to get to today. The root of the problem, which is not racism, and it's not left or the right, and it's not even the system. They play a huge part. And I'm not saying their agenda is good in any way. But it's not the root. The root is the fear. Fear is a really big problem. And fear and its little buddy, victimization, they work hand in hand together. And they are wreaking havoc. And they are the roots of the problem. So as much as the people in control don't want us to find solutions, we need to find solutions. Otherwise, we're headed in a very bad direction, and we're getting there very quickly, and the media is making sure that we're going to get there sooner than later unless we somehow free ourselves from this insanity. And the only way to free ourselves from this insanity is to free ourselves from the state of mind that got us into this mess to begin with, because you cannot solve a problem from the same state of consciousness from which the problem was created. Seems like common sense, but all the people up there in the governments and the non-government people, all the people up there telling us that they have the solutions, are telling us that we need to solve the problems by the very same means that we created them. Sounds insane, because it is. So let's talk about some real solutions. So why the fear? Where does all this fear come from? And really, the victimization. Why are we victims? How does victims create two-party politics? The division, the Great Divide, is caused by victimization. See, the people on the left, whether they would identify closer as feeling victimized by the evil Trump white supremacists or feeling victimized by the capitalists, those are two great main stereotypes. So let's just take the one, anti-capitalist. They feel victimized because they're poor people, and it's the rich, greedy billionaires' faults. Kind of true. But they don't have to be a victim, and they are. They see themselves as a victim. And on the other side, you've got the anti-socialists, the anti-communists. Well, they feel victimized by the socialism and the communist policies as they see it. So there is a great wealth disparity. There is a problem with greed. And the solution, however, that the leftists want is they want socialism for everyone. They want state-sponsored socialism, which means they want government people to point a gun at someone's head, take their money, the threat of basically imprisonment backed by force of a gun, and redistribute that money equally amongst us all. They'll solve our problems. Everyone will have the same amount of money and we'll all be happy. Except for all the people that had their money stolen from them. They won't be happy at all. They'll probably hate the people that push those policies. And if they ever get in power again, well, just be don't want to be that socialist. Let's just put it that way. So, soon enough, the victim becomes the victimizer. That's what the victim wants. Their solution is to victimize someone else in turn. Let's victimize the person victimizing us. That'll solve the problem. But it won't, because the problem is greed. And stealing a greedy person's money doesn't make them any less greedy. It probably just makes them greedy and a lot more hateful than they were before. And still greedy. So no, that's not a solution. But that's a good example of how victimization works. And of course the victimizer doesn't ever see themselves as the victimizer. They see themselves as the hero. Standing up for the working man, the poor man, the oppressed man, making things right. But they didn't make anything right, as we just saw. Then on the other side, you've got, okay, we don't like the socialist policies. Well, that makes a lot of sense, and we just went through that. So they're mad because these people are trying to push I don't know, all kind of socialist policies on them. At least that's what they see. And people trying to force me to give my stuff away to other people. So they don't like that. And so now they feel victimized by the people trying to increase power over them to somehow equalize economy. And another good example would be, I don't know, taxes. This may be a third, like a libertarian or anti-establishment standpoint. So there's the taxation. People don't like being taxed. At least this camp of people don't like being taxed. Maybe a lot of people on the right, it's also a good stereotype for them, but they don't like the taxation without representation. Maybe they just don't like the taxation at all. Because if you look at the root of taxation, it really is just theft with a different name. Because it really doesn't matter who steals your money. If it's being taken against your will, it's theft. Doesn't matter whether it's redistributed to the poor in a socialist society or given to the war machine in the current imperial corporatocracy, if you can call it that. Be pretty accurate. Government run pretty much by imperial corporations, imperial policies, managed by corporations and technology, thus being transformed into a technocracy in the coming few days. Anyway, so this is what we got, and another example on the right would be they don't like the mask mandates from whoever mandates them, like Trump, like Biden, and so, even Trump told his supporters to wear masks, but he didn't mandate them, didn't try to mandate them. Joe Biden has tried to put federal mandates in, so they feel victimized. These evil Joe Biden making me wear a mask against my will. I'm a poor victim of Joe Biden. The other people, I'm a poor victim of the racist Trump policies and capitalism. So we could go on with examples, but you get the point. Both sides feel victimized by the other side's policies. The people that are on neither side also feel victimized by the system's policies. So this is how victim mentality works, and victims always turn into the victimizer. It's like the saying goes, one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, or one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. So the solution then, is to self-empowerment. Escape the fear. We have to escape the fear to be empowered, because fear is the most disempowering energy on the face of the earth. Well, how do we become empowered? Well, we have to first take responsibility for our lives and say, what they do to me can't affect my happiness or my sense of safety. So how do we go about doing this? Well, the best, easiest, most direct way is to just start focusing on the things you can control. So for the example of the socialist, pro-socialist, I guess, the leftist, he doesn't like the wealth inequality. I don't like it either. It's not right. How are you going to fix that? Well, from a state of victimization, we already been through that. But from a point of empowerment, what do I have control over? I might not be able to control what the greedy people do with their money and whether or not they share it with me. But what I do get to control is what I do with the little money I have as a poor man, and I guarantee you, there's someone who's more poor than you. And maybe they need a helping hand. And as a philosophy of socialism, you think people with more should share with the people who have less. So you could, instead of feeling like a victim, you could actually help someone who is more in need than you are, and you have the capacity to help them. And the next thing you know, you've not only empowered yourself, you took some power back, you've also helped out a neighbor. You could also join or build your own like socialist style community where everything is shared equally. Pretty much just the dream that a socialist, an advocate for socialism, talks about is equality for all. Why don't you just go build that community? That's actually something you could do without having to rely upon a political party doing it for you. And the best part of all is you don't have to force anyone to do it. You just find, and I guarantee you, because I know there's millions of leftists out there who advocate for socialism, you just have to find a handful, go out, build a community. There's already communes out there, you just go join one, but if you want to be a real go-getter, you could build one, build a community. And maybe if it works and everyone's happy and no one has more than anyone else and everyone's like better off, like they say socialism is supposed to accomplish, and I'm not saying it wouldn't accomplish it under a voluntary model. Maybe you even win over some of those dirty capitalists. Well, probably not the actual capitalists, but some of those dirty Trump supporters. Maybe they would actually be won over to your side, not by force, but by example, because they would see that, whoa, I can actually be free and not have to worry about money at the same time. Maybe, but even if you didn't win over any of those pro-capitalists over there, you've still accomplished something. And then the people on the right, let's start with the tax one, for example. The person who's victimized by the taxes, well, they unfortunately cannot control what the person taxing them does with the money, but they can control whether or not they allow themselves to be taxed. No one's pointing a gun to your head saying, I'm going to blow your brains out if you don't pay taxes. The income tax is totally voluntary. So a lot of people have just stopped paying taxes. It's very doable. You can do it. I can do it. I did it. Other people have done it. Derek Bros did it. A lot of people have done it. It can be done. But you have to step out of the victimization, step out of the victim consciousness, and take control for your life and realize I am in control. They don't own me by saying you have to give me money. I own me, and I can control whether or not I actually do that or not. And if you really wanted, you could move to another country where taxes are lower. There's so many ways that you can take back your power by simply focusing on what you can do. Same with masks. If you feel victimized by mask mandate, just stop wearing a stupid freaking mask. For crying out loud. I haven't worn a mask in quite some time. It's not that hard. You just get to the point where you don't want to wear a mask, you don't wear a mask. Just when you're not scared, it's not that hard. What are they going to do to you? Like give you dirty looks? If you truly believe that they're not helping anyone, then there's nothing really to fear. I mean, the worst that can happen is you're not allowed in a business. You get hassled by a cop. Really, being hassled by cops is pretty rare. Mostly you just not be allowed in a business. And why would you want to do business with a person that does not respect your humanity to the point where they're going to force you to wear a mask even if you have physical disability, breathing issues when you have a mask on? Why would you want to patronize that business? That's the thing. When you take control of your life, you realize you're actually like, your decisions like have meaning. You can decide, I'm not going to give business to someone that doesn't respect the values I hold dear. And then you go give business to someone else. If there is no other business around, maybe you could just start your own business. So many ways. You just focus on the things you can control. For example, a few more just general examples outside of the political realm. You can focus on how much sleep you get, what kind of food you eat, healthy food or not healthy food. You can decide, if you like peace, for example, you're maybe anti-war, peace activist, or you just generally, like most people, you just rather see peace on earth than violence and strife and hatred. Well, you can decide to not eat meat, because meat comes from a dead animal. Dead animals were killed with violence. So if you don't like violence, you can stop eating violence, products of violence. You can, like we already mentioned, find a way to stop paying taxes that go to a violent system. Government that spends more than half its money, literally, on war. You can eat healthy foods. You choose like how much water you drink. You can decide if you hate your job, you actually have the power to leave that job. You might be scared that now you're going to be jobless and then homeless. That's fear. So you got to overcome the fear at the same time. Like I said, they go hand in hand. See, the more scared you are, the more inclined you are to stay in your victim consciousness, because it's easier to be a victim than to face your fear in order to step outside. You have to overcome the fear to self-empowerment. You cannot be empowered while being in fear. It's impossible. Fear is the most disempowering energy on the face of the earth. So I'm sure you can like control what movies you watch, what you do with your free time. Even if you work full time, you still have free time. You can choose whether you spend your life chasing women or trying to get money or trying to help other people or meditating, or what you read, if you read, watching. Do you watch television? Do you turn the television off? Do you allow a screen in the corner of the room to tell you what to think, or do you decide on your own what you think? Do you look independent news sources, right-wing, left-wing news sources? Do you just not read the news? You can decide that you don't want to go into debt, and then you just don't go into debt, or you can go into a lot of debt and get a bunch of nice material things. So many different choices that you can make. Really, those are all the sorts of things that you can control. And a lot of times they feel like you're already in debt, so maybe you feel victimized by the debt system. But where there's a will, there's a way. That's all I'm going to say on that. You have to switch the mindset. And how do you do that? And where does this victim mentality come from? Well, it comes from this little thing called the ego, which is really just a conglomeration of a mental conditioning we've accumulated since we were kids, from society, from all the religion and government and TV and social circles and what we've read and all that. It's a program, basically. It's a mental program that identifies with your body. It says, I am the body and I am separate. And that's how the ego exists. It exists on separation and on fear. So if you want to overcome fear, you have to transcend the ego, because the ego is based in fear. And so the only way to overcome the fear is to transcend the ego. And the ego is simply part of your mind that identifies with, mainly, I'm the body, I'm black, I'm white, all the things that are your traits that make you separate individual from everyone else, that make you unique. So I'm black, I'm white, I'm a man, I'm American, I'm this, I'm that, I wear glasses, I have a beard, I'm straight, I And on the list goes. Also, I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. All that's ego, all of it. They're just identifications with things that are not real. They might be real, but you are not what the ego identifies with. The ego wants you to think you are. You are not actually white. That's not the defining thing about you. I might look white, but my name's Jason, and I'm Jason. I'm not. I don't identify as being white. I'm a human, and we should all identify as humans. And then going even further than humans, we should identify as what we truly are. So what are we truly? Well, we have to do some self-inquiry to come to that conclusion. So you sit back and ask, who am I? If you do that long enough, ask, who am I, you start to realize, wait, I'm not actually the body, because like 10 years ago, I literally wasn't this body. I was a different body. Less wrinkles, younger. Maybe if you're really old, maybe 10 years ago your hair wasn't so gray. If you're like 20, maybe 10 years ago you were a tiny kid, So once you really sit back and think about it, you can really start to realize that, yeah, you really are not your body, because if that 10-year-old kid is me, and then the 20-year-old young adult is me, and then the 30-year-old me is me, and then I get 50, I'm a lot wiser, not quite so crazy, and totally different cellular makeup. Like, not even the same physical person in any respect whatsoever, from when you're a baby to the day you die, if you die a natural death of old age. So all those me's are very different, and yet somehow I identify myself with all of them when I actually step back and think about it. But wait, I can't be all of them, because they're all different me's. Literally, they're all different bodies. How can I be all of them? And you can realize there's an I behind the little me that the ego claims. There's actually the real I that's witnessing the body develop and grow. And you, the real you, gains knowledge. It has the knowledge and the memories and the wisdom and all the life lessons. It retains those, but it isn't those. You aren't your memories. You are that which collects the memories. And once you get to this point of realization, which shouldn't take too much contemplation to realize, at least to get to the point where you realize that the little me is not the real you, then it's just a point from there. You just have to realize, you have to figure out, well, if that's not the real me, what is the real me? What is the I that's collecting all the information from the various stages of my life, where at all those times I identified with the little changing me that I now quite clearly realize is not me at all? Well, basically, depending on what religious tradition or spiritual tradition or whatever you come from, you're probably going to have a different label for it, but pretty much all of the different traditions have a word for it. It's all the same thing. The I am presence is one word for it. The Christ within, in like the Eastern traditions, it'd be the Buddha mind, the pure mind, the higher self, true self. Hindus might call it the Atman. It's like basically the part of God that's you. So really, when you break it down away from labels, just pretty much pieces of God. We're all just pieces of God. So how can that be? So God's out. Nope, God's not outside of you. That's the ego. The ego identifies with separation, but that can't actually be true. Let's just take a look at it from from just a little logical standpoint. So we all had to come from something. We're all energy. We're all different, forms of energy. Where did that energy come from? We know energy has to always exist. It just shifts. This is the basic science. So even if you believe in evolution or not, say you believe in evolution, I've never talked to a single evolutionist who can answer the question of where did the first organism come from? Because something cannot come from nothing. It's not possible. It's not possible according to science. It's not logical. It makes no sense. So we therefore must conclude it all comes from whatever the source of energy is, thus the name source. So call it source, call it God, whatnot. We're all just energy from our source. Creator. Great Spirit, as the natives would call it. God in the Christian and many other traditions. But whatever label you give it, it's all just the source energy from which we all come from. And what is that energy? That energy is love. Pure love. Unconditional love. And it's who you are. It's your true essence. And we just have been conditioned. All the conditioning that we've been conditioned with is layers and layers of it over time, over the years. Many, many, many layers. But underneath all, we have to rip all the layers off and finally get to the bottom. Then we'll find it is unconditional love. So it's you can think of it as kind of hidden within the cases, within layers, encased within layers of ignorance and delusion and fears and programming. So you have to rip all that off to really see it. But once you get a glimpse of it, you realize that's what you are. So eventually, that's pretty much the point of spirituality. Any spiritual path, that's really the only real point of all religions, is to point you to love, and they all do. And that's really the point of all spiritual paths, is to peel away the layers of unreality that hide the true reality of what you are, which is just love. Like it says right in the Bible, God is love. God created you. God had to create you out of whatever He is, because there's nothing outside of God. God is omnipresent, coming from a Christian tradition that I was brought up in. So had to make us out of Him. He is love. Therefore, we had to be made out of love. Therefore, that's our true self. Our true identity is love. That's how you transcend. All the fear is just realizing that you're love. It makes sense. If the ego is unreal, which it is, then and the ego identifies with fear, and what real must be the opposite of fear, which is love. But we're in our current insane world, running around like little kids, basically hiding under the bed, terrified of life and the world and everything around us because we think we're all separate, and we don't realize that we're all love. And if we're all love, then we're really all one, and then it doesn't make sense to fight and hate each other anymore. But we don't get that because we're like the little kid hiding under the bed in the dark room, scared of the boogeyman in the closet. But when the lights turn on, all of a sudden, one realizes, almost like a magic trick, just boom, there's no boogeyman there. It's not real. And suddenly you're not scared of it anymore. How can you be scared of something that doesn't even exist? That's like the ego. When you get in touch with the real self, you realize that that's your true essence, is love. All of a sudden, it's like the light flipping on inside you, your inner light. You get in touch with your inner light, and all of a sudden, the darkness is gone. The ego, you realize, doesn't exist. And then once all those false identities and all that, the fear is based on separation, fear of not being loved if I lose my loved one, fear of anything you can think of. It's gone as the light turned on and you realize there's no boogeyman to be scared of. Then the fear disappears. Because I guess like the Course of Miracles says, it's a good quote, to sum it up, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So you find the peace, you find self-empowerment by finding your true essence and transcending the ego in the meantime. And then pretty much from there it's like really simple, and everything just sorts itself out, because if you really think about it, all the problems in this world arose out of basically a sick mind. Insane world was caused by a sick mind, sick minds, and once the minds are healed, then the world will in turn quickly be healed. Because no longer would we be hating each other over such silly labels as Democrat or Republican, or black and white, when we simply see each other as fellow brothers, as one human family, basically as fellow expressions of love. We're all just fellow expressions of love, looking to share that love, to be loved, and to love. Some of us might not know it. In reality, those who cause pain to others are themselves in pain. So once you realize that, you just extend love and compassion to everyone. And such realization on a big enough scale would quickly eradicate all the problems externally, just like the inner state of fear and insecurity and victimization caused them to begin with. Get to the root, and then the problem will just disappear on its own. Cut the root of the poisonous tree, and it's done. And keep hacking at the branches, but the tree will just keep on growing in different ways. New branches will pop out. It'll look a little different, but it'll be the same poisonous tree, filled with fear, hatred, victimization, turning to victimizer, turning back into the victim, and over the cycle of insanity will go, until we realize that the only solution to the insanity of the ego is love. Love will heal this world. Only love will heal this world. Only spirituality will save us, as Pockets of the Future Paul Romano says. And yes, that's really all there is to say. If you want the solution, if you want to know how to get out of this situation, just go in yourself and you'll find the solution there. And once we all do that, not even all of us, just enough of us, will spread. Because just like fear is contagious, so is love also contagious. Because since the advantage that love has is it's all of us, it's our true identity, and so even those of us who live in fear still want love. So once enough of us start showing true love, it will take hold, and the hatred just won't be able to stand any longer. And if we stop seeing ourselves as victims, which will happen in the process, it's inevitable. So love cannot be a victim. Then the oppressors will fall, because one thing oppressors need to be oppressors is they need victims. Once we stop being victims, heal ourselves from this virus of victimization, the oppressor, it's like pulling out the platform from underneath the oppressor, and they'll just collapse without us throwing a single stone, single punch, no shots fired. That's the way to do it. And hopefully we can avert the driving off of the cliff that will otherwise occur if we do not get to the root of the problem and solve it in time. As we can all see, we don't like where we're going, then we need to get to the root of the problem, turn the car around, not just change drivers. Alright, that's all I have to say. Been long enough video. I think I got everything I wanted to say, and hopefully you found this informational, inspiring, useful. Hopefully we can avert crazy, I don't know, civil war or total enslavement. It'd be nice to avoid both of those potential likely futures. Anyway, hope you have a great week. Stay tuned for more videos. Until next time, peace.
We watch the news and it fills up our brains with violence and riots and race. Like this is a race war. You need to hate more. Get what you came for. Convincing the right to go fight with the left and distract from the fact it's each other we need. Divided by race and religion, segregated into teams. Screaming from the rooftops, beat down better. Turn us on each other now. No lives matter. If we do what the news wants, blood gon' splatter. Turn us on each other till no lives matter. You a white supremacist. If you're not, I guess you Antifa. Turn us on each other till no lives